On this episode of Comes with the Territory, the proposed fare hikes for VITRAN has raised concerns among some riders. Public Works Commissioner Derek Gabriel is here to explain the reason behind the fare increase, while Senator Marvin Blyden offers insights as chairman of the Senate Committee on Housing, Transportation, and Telecommunication. Welcome to Comes with the Territory. I'm Leslie Commission. The Department of Public Works recently announced plans for proposed fare increases within the Virgin Islands Transit System, or VITRAN, effective April 15th. The fare adjustments marks VITRAN's first change in pricing since its inception back in 1994, and the increase is needed to offset rising fuel and maintenance costs, according to the Department of Public Works. VITRAN's proposed fares for fixed route services are set to increase from $1 to $2.50, marking a 150% rise. Some bus riders said if rates are going to be raised, they expect a corresponding improvement in service quality.
You raise the price, that means you got to give better service.
I think first thing first, it should be on time. But if they're trying to raise the price, then definitely need to see improvements.
They don't take care of the buses that they have now. So what do you think they're going to do if the fare raises? The bus stops are atrocious. That's VITRAN. They don't clean them. It's horrific.
I know they have to pay for gas. They have to maintain the bus. So they should have to pay a fee, but not $2.50. $2.50 is much too much. $1.50 should be the limit.
Under VITRAN's proposed changes, paratransit van fares will also increase from $2 to $5, a concerning prospect for some disability rights advocates.
I understand the need for VITRAN to raise rates. However, the methodology in which they're doing it seems to be very problematic. You can't ask paratransit riders to bear this cost of this increase because we have failed to manage on our end. These rates haven't been changed since 1994. And now they're asking people on fixed income to pay double the cost of a ride now. And I think it's unfair to those individuals, and the comment period is short and it offers no time for the public to really delve into the subject matter. And I only just recently heard about this, and I think I keep in touch. So what about those individuals who utilize paratransit, who may not have access to the internet, who doesn't have access to the radios, who have disabilities and rely on this service? They're hearing about it, and the comment period is too short for them to be able to get somebody to advocate on their behalf, to make their voices heard, that this cost is something that they can't afford. And I think that what DPW is doing needs to be reconsidered at this point.
The public was requested to provide feedback on the fare changes by March 26th, as stated in a DPW press release dated March 20th. Joining the show to share more information about VITRAN's changes is Public Works Commissioner Derek Gabriel. I'm also joined by Senator Marvin Blyden, chairman of the Senate Committee on Housing, Transportation, and Telecommunications. Welcome to Comes to the Territory. Thank you both for joining us. Let's start with you, Commissioner Gabriel. Let's talk about the details and insights and reasons behind this increase that folks are not too happy about.
Yeah, so Leslie, we've been really analyzing our rates, analyzing what it takes to run VITRAN. Really, it's a process that we've been going through now for about 18 months. I want to start by saying there are very few transit services throughout America that actually turn a profit. Most times it's either the state or the federal government that's subsidizing that service as a need to the community. Similarly here, we actually subsidize it to the tune of about $5.5 to $6 million each year. So we have about an 80-20 share, if you will, between the local government and the federal government. We're trying to find ways, like some of the people that you interviewed said, we're trying to find ways to make VITRAN more reliable, more on time, have more buses. And really, the only way that we can make it more reliable is to raise the rates just a little bit. We're trying to do things like, I think the public saw most recently, we've invested in electric buses. Mm-hmm. That's going to help us reduce maintenance costs over time.
And fuel costs.
Fuel costs, of course. Fuel costs are rising, I feel like, almost every day we're increasing our fuel budget. Tires aren't getting any cheaper, none of the consumable parts, and it's becoming harder to acquire because you're competing with other states. So we're just looking at ways to make it more affordable, not only for the local government, but more reliable, more importantly for the riders.
Let me get Senator Blyden in here. Why do you believe the rate increase is too much and too soon?
Well, first of all, from the outset, I must say I acknowledge the 30 years we haven't had an increase. But at the same time, you cannot measure everything on the same scale. I believe many of those individuals who ride the bus are our most disadvantaged individuals. And for those individuals to pay $150 a day, that's over $30 a month. So you have to look at it from that perspective. And it might not seem like much to us, but for those individuals, it's a lot. They are on a fixed income and they really cannot afford it. I understand the increase, but how you do it is my concern. That's 150% increase. If you can spread it out over time, more people will accept it and be reasonable with that. But from $1 to $2.50, that's a lot.
Senate Minority Leader Dwayne DeGraff publicly criticized the proposed fare increases, labeling them as disrespectful to the community for allowing residents less than 60 days to weigh in and failing to hold town hall meetings on such a significant matter. He also said there was no need for rate hikes because he sponsored revenue-generating legislation in 2019 that authorizes the Public Works Commissioner to permit advertisements on VITRAN buses and bus stops. Here's more on that.
Getting that bill passed, that I got passed to advertise on VITRAN buses and bus stops. The idea of that bill was to help cover costs for seniors riding less. That was because at the previous commissioner stating there was about $800,000 that they weren't generating because of that keeping the fares so low. And I figure we could generate probably not that amount. But after advertising the buses and bus stop, I think we can generate a couple 100,000, if any, off of that. Let's do it, and you give me a cost and see if it can cover, and then give me a chance to see if we could find other funding. But I think buses and bus stops, to give you that as a revenue source, let's use that first.
Commissioner, what do you think about the comments from Senator DeGraff? Is there enough demand for advertising on buses to subsidize to the tune that he says? And also about the comment period and not having a town hall on this.
So a couple of things I'd like to fact check, if you will, right? When we did when the initiative for advertising on buses and bus stops was done, it was actually to subsidize the free rides that we provide to seniors. So right now, any senior citizen rides for free on the bus as long as the bus is operating. Leslie, if you recall, when we proposed the fare increases, we also proposed limiting the hours that our seniors rode for free, so we could maximize the revenue generating seats. A lot of people gave us some really good public feedback, similar to Senator DeGraff, that it seemed like we were penalizing the people that needed VITRAN the most. So we decided to scale back on that, keep it at, having senior citizens ride for free all day long. But then what does that lead us to? Less revenue generating seats throughout the day.
Sure.
So this is where we have to find a way to really subsidize that side of it as well. Not only the free rides, but also those that ride consistently, because like we said, maintenance costs continue to rise.
So just for clarity, seniors ride for free all day on VITRAN?
All day.
Excellent. Now I have a question for you, Senator Blyden. You mentioned earlier that it's too much too fast. What would your proposal be? How would you roll out this increase?
I would phase it in, maybe the first year 50 cents and see how it goes, because I know most jurisdictions have done surveys of their ridership and see how they can absorb that cost, and that would be very important in terms of our people here in the territory, and I think that needs to be done.
Commissioner, the comment period. There was a complaint by Senator Senator DeGraff about it being too short. Tell me about the comment period, how you guys constructed it, where can individuals make comments on this, and why there isn't a town hall on this.
So first and foremost, so the Federal Transit Administration requires that you have at least a 30-day comment period anytime you're raising rates. And that's in addition to any transportation studies that we do. Okay. So those boxes were checked. Again, we extended it, did double the amount of the public comment period that's required. And we've also, Leslie, since then extended our public comment period into April to allow for more comments. Town halls, you know, we can look at that. The last time we had a town hall about the ferry, literally 3 people showed up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a little discouraging, and that was another VITRAN initiative. And again, we are trying to find ways, really, like I said, to make our service more reliable and also to spread the burden of the costs. My thought process is if more people ride the bus, if we have more reliable service, if we're able to increase the amount of buses that we have, then we make it a better service for all Virgin Islanders.
How was the public notified about the increase and the comment period?
So we did a number of posts in the media. We did, of course, our normal press releases. I will say the one thing I didn't do was go out on the radio like I usually do, even to come on shows like this, which is why we looked at extending the public comment period. I felt like there was more we could do, especially with our social media. So I'm listening. Public, if you have any comments, please let us know. We're always open and willing to accept whatever it is. I will tell you, Leslie, between this and the ferry naming competition, I'm really proud of the amount of public participation we've had in the changes that we're making to VITRAN.
Excellent. Senator Blyden, have you had any constituents reach out to you on this particular issue?
Yes, I have. Just today, I had about 3 calls in that respect. But I believe the public comment, and as the commissioner stated, he needed to go on a radio station because the ridership in the territory are mostly seniors, and they mostly listen to the radio stations, not Facebook and the internet, the radio stations. So it's key to know where your people are, and they listen to the radio on a daily basis.
Let me ask you, what are some of your constituents? You said you had 3 calls today. What kinds of questions they're asking? What kind of comments are they making to you?
Similar to what you showed earlier in terms of the amount, in terms of when it comes to the service, when it comes to being dependable, all of those concerns came forward. If there's going to be an increase, they want better service. They want to assure that the buses come on time, make sure that the bus stops are clean, etc. Those are the type of comments I got from those individuals.
Let me ask both of you a question, because we all know the 10,000 pound or however many 1,000-pound elephant in the room is not gypsy, but the safaris, the dollar rides. We know that and this predates you, for years now, they have eroded the income and revenue that VITRAN can potentially make. There's an argument that there are more of them than there are buses. They run more frequently, and it's more convenient for ridership. But one can only imagine if we're subsidizing as a government the VITRAN system up to $5 million a year, you got to think that kind of, at least a substantial portion of that is going to these taxi drivers. How can is it worth even investing in enforcement officers to better enforce, what should not be happening and is actually illegal to start, and begin to recapture some of that revenue by the system?
So, Leslie, I think that's a great question. I think enforcement is the first step, and I think it's really important. What I worry about is the safety, because there's a lack of safety on a lot of these safaris because they're unregulated. For us, to answer that question, if you will, in St. Croix, we've done a lot of studies for what's called microtransit routes. And we're really looking at how we could use like Queen Mary as an express route, right? Where the buses stay on that and you have really reliable service every 10 minutes, where our residents can get picked up from that, get dropped off into your neighborhoods, and then you pick up a smaller bus that maybe comes less frequently. So that you're increasing your reliability again. Decreasing the size of your buses, which also allows for less downtime.
Sure.
And so that's the way that I think the answer to that is if we provided more buses, then the dollar runs would go back to doing what they are normally supposed to do, which is provide transportation for our tourists.
Senator Biden, let me ask you for your take on that.
I'm very happy that you asked that question because we have been speaking about this for some time. There are several things that can happen within that space. Number one, you are correct in terms of providing more bus service to those individuals. You got to remember, safaris, the dollar run came about out of the gap that was there. So we are the one that they basically have them doing what they're doing. But nonetheless, I want to add that they are regulated. Safaris are federally registered, and that was a process that we had to deal with for some time. But it has to be done by a certified welder. Not all of them were, but right now we're trying to get them into compliance. In addition to that, we spoke about transfer station for some time with public work. I think that's the key right there because no bus should be going from town to country back to town. all buses in the country should stay in the country, those in town should stay in town. It does several things. It helps with reliability, and it helps in terms of being on time. You can have an app telling you exactly, I know what time my bus is coming, you have more ridership. So it's a win-win for everyone. And I think Public Works are working in that space, and I would like to hear something from the commission in that respect.
Go ahead.
Yeah, of course. So Senator Blyden is absolutely correct. We're moving toward more of like similar to our ride share, where you can actually see where your bus is on the route. You know, it takes a lot. We have a lot of blind spots due to our technology here in the territory. We had a great system that we had procured. Unfortunately, it was purchased by Uber, which, as you know, Leslie, Senator Blyden, they don't do business in the territory. So we're in the middle of phasing in our secondary software, which I think once we're able to create that app, and you can see when your bus is coming, when maybe your mainline bus is running, and our residents can start to rely on VITRAN more regularly, I think you really see that change that we want to see with public transportation in the territory.
I think a way to also capture some of that revenue is incorporate some of those safari drivers as part of VITRAN and have them pay a fee for the right to be able to run that particular service. So they would be perhaps subcontractors, and that way that could also generate revenue for the system.
And also for the system, I believe we can have all transportation under Public Works to include the gypsy cabs who goes to the stores, etc. And that system will work well for all because we're all going to win, especially the customers.
Correct.
Especially customers.
I think that's a great idea, and I've spoken about it on radio. There's a lot of lost revenue that's unaccounted for that goes untaxed. Let's just be frank about that in these services, and it would be great to get for the government to capture some of that.
Exactly.
I guess I'll leave it here where I do have a plug-in that I think the Department of Public Works needs to evolve into the Department of Transportation. Giving up maybe some of the capital project functions that we have and really focusing on transportation, whether it's the public transit system, our roads, our highways, our bridges, but also, like you said, the taxi cabs.
Yes.
I think there's a lot, the ferry system. I think there's a lot of room for growth for the Department of Public Works to really evolve into transportation and join our partners throughout the U.S.
And one thing I'd like to add also, I just came from a conference, and one of the things they said they do in those large states is around public housing involves transportation because we have several developments that do not have any bus system, and most of those individuals depend and need transportation, and that's a place we can also tap into.
Yeah. We need to come back. I'm willing to come back.
Absolutely. This was a great discussion. Our time is up, however, but I think we hit a lot of valuable points that the public would appreciate. Up next, we'll hear from this week's Power Panel, but first, let's take a look at the topics up for discussion.